You're a school board member. You're an expert when it comes to education, especially in Florida. That has really been a lightning rod in this conversation when it comes to education. What would you tell Linda McMahon, as someone who is really has the experience here, what would you tell her needs to be done to fix the education system?
I think it's important for the federal government to evaluate their priorities. I always say that a budget identifies what is a top priority. And I think it's important for us to recognize that there are areas, yes, there is a ton of money being poured into education, but there are a lot of areas that are seriously lacking the funding. So for instance, Title I funding is wonderful and our schools rely on that funding, but it's actually not even enough. Many of them are still struggling and they're going to have to do local referendums to make up that difference. Teacher pay is a significant issue from every state across the United States. And if you don't have a qualified quality educator in the forefront of a classroom, you're going to see decrease of scores and performance of students. And so I think it's important to take a look at the funding sources that exist and really where we're hurting and where we need it more. And just as a special education educator myself and coming from a state of Florida where we're lacking those resources, I think it's really critical that we have a conversation about how we're going to meet those needs of those students even better going forward.
I hate to play hypotheticals here, but we saw Trump's first term. Now, I want you to look forward to the future 4 years from now after a Trump second term. Let's say Linda McMahon gets confirmed, goes through 4 years of Trump. His promises include confirming Linda McMahon as well as dismantling the Department of Education. What does education in this country look like 4 years from today?
It is going to further the gap and disadvantages by exponential amounts. We will see major discrepancies in certain demographics and students with low-income families widen, and everyone should be concerned about that. Even if you think that, this isn't going to impact my student or my family directly, I have access to private school or schools of my choice and great schools in my area. You need to be concerned about the community that you live in. We're all in this together, and we need to uplift every single one of our students in our communities to make sure that we have a better future going forward.
And let's say he does give education back to the states. This becomes a states issue. How different would a public school kid's education in New York be from Florida, be from Colorado, be from Oregon? How different does that education look?
I argue that it's already in the state's control. The majority of our funding does come from the state. It doesn't come from the federal government. But the part that's most important is the accountability and the oversight. There have been many instances in which the federal government has had to step in for the civil rights of our students to ensure that funds are being appropriately spent and distributed to classrooms across the United States of America. And so, shifting to total and full control and oversight at the state level only makes it more risky and dangerous for the taxpayers.
Let's say she is confirmed, Linda McMahon. How does that impact the local level, even down to a school board?
Over the last 4 years, I have not been a stranger to the incredible amount of pressure politically to stay in line, to do what you're being told by what you perceive to be the powers above you. So I think that, someone like Linda McMahon being nominated and trying to accomplish the goals that she has is only going to further to continue to do that. I think we'll see things in Florida like more book banning, more privatization of our public schools. And I think it's important for people to be aware of that happening. And I don't think that we're going to see an end to it anytime soon.
Well, Jennifer Jenkins, as this situation continues on, I hope you come back on and we can have more of these critical conversations. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.